computer.
Use my cynicism.
That's how the recording starts. Cynicism.
Cynicism.
Welcome to DiTolvo's TED Talk.
Exactly. Oh my god.
Yeah,
The
cynicism.
world could not deal with my TED Talks. My TED
I
rants.
would, I would. Yeah, you would have the first TED rant.
Yeah, I would. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would.
of
What
all
were you
the
gonna
series
say?
of
You
TED
would what?
rants. I would be the first person to watch your
You
TED
would
Talks or
not.
TED rants.
You've
I
heard my
absolutely would.
rants about shopping for bras, and you've heard it all. You've
Yeah,
dating apps and
I would.
all of
I
it.
like them all. That's why.
Ugh. My soapbox has a crack in it because it's been used too often. I gotta
That's true.
put some.
Ha-
I gotta
have you
patch
ever
it
had
with some
to
glue.
on a production though? This is outside of anything, but have you ever had to stand on a box for an eye line or anything like that?
Oh, an apple box. We should tell
Yeah, apple
people
box.
about apple boxes.
Apple
Why
box.
we can't just call them a box? They have to be apple boxes.
Wow.
No, but you know how I was ranting to you the other day about my Robert Downey Jr. crush and how when I heard that Iron Man was a thing and when I went to see Iron Man the second time in the theater, I went with friends and I I don't understand. Here's another rant. Incoming rant. You brought up apple boxes. So I don't understand and I can tie this into my rant about dating apps because there's a dating app that I'm on where guys feel like they need to tell you how tall they are. And I'm like, this is a thing? And I'm like, I don't understand height women. Like, unless you are like 6 foot, how important is height? Like, what is this obsession with height? Like, I don't, it's horrible that men have to, like, my friends, I think I went with my friends who were like my height, aka 5'5", not very tall, like Peter Falk height. And Robert Downey Jr. is not that tall. And so, I had just made a weird comment before that we saw the movie that Gwyneth Paltrow is kind of tall and he's not. And they probably either give him lifts or he's on an apple box. And one of my friends during the whole movie would be like, he's on a box right now. He's standing on a box. He's standing on a box. So anyway, to tie that into what you just asked me, no, I've never had to stand on a box, on an apple box.
I yeah, I was
It's a
gonna
weird
say
thing.
I have.
It's a thing.
Well, I was hired to be a stand-in for.
Well,
Actually, I wasn't hired to be a stand-in. I was pulled into standism. Yeah.
You were roped into.
Yes, I was
In
roped
case
in.
this outtake ends up on the podcast, we have tell us.
No, the stand-in is it's mainly for camera blocking.
It's shots.
Essentially.
It's just for
it's for
setup.
setting up shots essentially, and
Setting
also
up a shot.
it can be used to play off the other actors too.
Mhm.
You're basically there to stand because you have the same type of height and like build as the famous person that's getting paid a lot more money to
The principal. Keep talking.
yeah. Oh no, very nice.
Anyway, but you were doing a stand in.
Yeah,
thing.
I was hired to do a background gig on the show. It was the pilot episode of Crashing,
Oh,
and it was a really fucking cool ass experience. But I
Cool.
was they didn't have anyone to stand in for comedian Big J Okerson,
okay.
and he is huge, and he is like probably almost a foot taller than me.
Yeah.
And for some reason I was the stand-in. They had a box for me, and I apparently had the same build except for the height. Like when I stood on an apple box, apparently I looked like Big J Okerson. So
Gotcha.
from the back, yeah.
From-
So anyway, well, if you look at them from, we don't have the same fronts, so but from the back, they were like, yeah, I kind of believe that. So. The best part about that whole gig was being directed by Judd Apatow. That was
Yeah.
yeah.
Cynicism. Apple
Cynicism.
box.
I am Nate in Ohio.
I'm DiTolvo in Queens. Welcome to
Sure.
Holding.
Welcome to Holding.
So,
Yes.
yeah, Nate and I are feeling a little cynical today. I think we're going to use that.
Oh,
Right?
in general, with the whole writer strike thing happening,
Yeah, my brain
that,
is
yeah.
feeling pretty cynical. Yeah, so we're over 2 months in now to the WGA strikes,
Uh,
and actors are joining in, and I feel like SAG is going to strike soon. Do you know anything about that, Nate?
yeah. The last thing that I heard, I had a piece of mail somewhere that first of all, it just asked me like what I would vote,
Ah,
at like which way I would vote.
because Nate is
And
SAG
I've
union,
yes, I
and
am
I'm not.
I am still in the union, even though I haven't worked in quite a long time on any production. I was pro them striking because they were not asking for nothing extreme,
Right.
just, we have to live,
We
you
have to
know,
live. Yeah.
as performers. And yeah, and I think some of these companies are gonna really keep pushing the writers because I think they've been preparing for this for a while, and they were ready for it. So
Okay.
yeah, it really just feels like they don't care, and like that kind of
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah.
So we're over 2 months in, and it's affecting a lot of us. It's affecting everyone who's in the film industry. Hang on. Sorry, you're not getting a lot of work. Hold out. We feel for you. I get it.
you know my own cynical thing is I miss watching some of my late night talk shows,
Right.
like, because
So
they
I feel everyone is affected. So if you're working in the film industry, you're affected because you're not getting as much work. If you're not in the film industry, you're affected because you're not getting new content. And
yeah,
some people are kind of both, experiencing both a little bit. So, just to reinstate, we support the strikes.
I think the last time they had a strike, I think I was still in
They who?
school. I don't The writers
Right,
strike.
yeah, yeah, because there have
Yeah,
been
that was
other strikes.
actually there was the big late night fight was the thing, because they tried
Right,
to they were still doing shows without writers,
right.
and that was weird.
Yeah.
It was just, I just remember how depressed I was because like they couldn't like talk about the news or anything, which is the only way that I get my news.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's no joke behind it, I'm not interested in a news story.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah. So, those of you who are missing your content, we figured we would take most of this podcast episode and talk about celebrity encounters we've had just to entertain you and keep you feeling like you're close to your favorite celebs. They're still there, I swear, even though you're not seeing new content of them. I want
Yes.
to get on my soapbox, my very cracked and re-glued and cracked and re-glued soapbox about something else before we do celeb stories. Or yeah, I want to bitch about the whole intimacy coordinator position, not in a way that I am against it. So, is this okay if I get on my soapbox about this, Nate?
Of course it is.
Okay. That's why we have a podcast, so we can talk about and bitch about whatever we want. So, for those of you who don't know what an intimacy coordinator is, it is, I feel like it's sprung up within the last, or it's become more prevalent within the last 10 years in the industry. And I think, with the Me Too movement, it's a position where your job is to basically be a liaison between the actors and the director during an intimate scene, a scene that might have like sexual situations and whatnot. And you're an advocate usually for the actors, are they comfortable doing the scene? Because I mean, so many actors, when a director says jump, they don't even ask how high. They just jump. They won't. They have a hard time saying no. They feel like they'll be fired or blacklisted if they don't appease the director. So sometimes people will do things they're not comfortable doing as an actor, and an intimacy coordinator is there to make sure that they're comfortable doing the scene, that they're comfortable in the scene. Like if you're wearing next to nothing, are you cold? Are you warm? Are you okay? You know, things like that. So it popped up a lot. I think the Deuce really made it. Do you feel that? Like the Deuce? Because the Deuce was about peep shows in Times Square back in the 70s. Now, that's when I started hearing more about the position. You can.
I never got to work on the Deuce, but I worked on mm, Younger. That's what it was. The show
Oh,
Younger,
I've worked on
and
that.
there was an outdoor scene. I think it was only simulated nudity, but there
Mm-hmm.
was, you know, kind of nudity thing, and they had this special person come in and make sure, and they were introduced as the intimacy coordinator, and I
There you
think
go.
that was the first time I ever heard that. I'm sure they've existed before, but and like
Right.
that was just the first time I ever encountered it, and I was like, what the hell does that mean? And
Well,
then
that's what it means. And there is,
yeah,
not to be confused with, an intimacy choreographer who actually, like,
yeah,
choreographs how they're going to simulate the
uh,
sexual situations. Um,
that's right.
yeah. Back to my issues with the intimacy coordinator thing. We try to have them now in better productions and even in theater, film and theater. It's stupid and difficult as fuck to become one. It's like a pyramid scheme. That is my issue. Like, you cannot just easily train for it and become certified. You have to go through multiple levels of thousands of dollar courses, and they're impossible to get into. And it just feels like someone heard about the position and was like, this will be a great way to make money. Because my background, the reason why I am so interested in it is because, I've been a sex worker. I've worked on set as an actor, and I've also been an SP. So, for people who don't know what an SP is, it means standardized patient, which I think most people will. Oh, Nate's making a face, but Nate, just you wait until what I'm going to see. What I'm going to say. Most people, if I explain what an SP is, they immediately think of the episode of Seinfeld where Kramer goes in and he has an STI and he has to act it out. It's a little bit more medical and less goofy than that, but a lot of actors do it and a lot of freelancers do it. It's a position where basically you are a patient, an acting patient for med students, and sometimes you have to act out certain illnesses, and sometimes you just have to like let them take your blood pressure or whatever. Anyway, so as an actor and someone who is comfortable being in a medical gown in front of strangers, I've been a standardized patient, and I even did GTA work, which is not Grand Theft Auto. It
Auto.
is. I
Sorry.
feel like this podcast has made me the queen of acronyms. All I talk about are like, let me tell you what that stands for. So when I was a GTA, that stands for Gynecologic Teaching Associate. Basically, if you're a person with breasts or a uterus, and there is the equivalent, the MUA. Anyway, if you have a penis, you are the patient and you are also the instructor. You're usually alone in the room with med students, and you teach them about your body using your body, and you let them do chest exams and pelvic exams on you. So, and what I liked about being a GTA was the patient advocacy. That basically I could teach very young, budding medical students uh, that people know their bodies and how to treat a patient, how to talk to a patient, how to make a patient comfortable. And, there's just a lot of advocacy, from language to touch to being in the room to reading the room. And that was what I enjoyed the most. I mean, it was cool getting free exams. I have breast cancer in my family, so I really liked was being able to shape the way these young people thought about human beings instead of just like a doctor sense, but that they are human beings and they know their bodies best. So respect your patients. So anyway, I feel like intimacy coordinator would be a position that I might have some experience for. And therefore, I would like to just give a basic amount of money to take a course and become certified because I don't think I need to learn that much as someone who has been an actor who has performed with no clothes on and has been a patient advocate. And I know people who this person, Nate, maybe we should have them on the podcast. They are more than experienced enough to become an intimacy coordinator, and they also cannot get into the classes and cannot afford the thousands of dollars of classes to become certified. And it's gotten to the point where, in theater, if somebody's just like, we need an intimacy coordinator, they're like, well, here's my experience. I don't have the certification, but here's my experience. And so they'll just get intimacy coordinator work that way because the certification is stupid. So this is what I'm bitching about. The certification for intimacy coordination is stupid and it's needed, and it seems like somebody was like, oh wow, this is needed. I could make a lot of money off of this. It's a horrible, horrible way to go about it. The lucky people who can get in these classes and just happen to be rich can become intimacy coordinators where they're, another thing that we did as GTAs, we worked with another acronym, SANE, SANE, sexual assault nurse examiners. We had to deal with being an advocate for someone who was sexually assaulted. So how are people like me not experienced enough to become an intimacy coordinator? Like, I would love to just take a certification, throw a little bit of money at somebody and be certified, but instead there's this like grand pyramid scheme to do it. So that is my gripe. Thank you for coming to my TED rant. Yeah, I'm very happy that intimacy coordinators are a thing. I'm very unhappy at the way at which people have to become certified for it, and that somebody's just making a shitload of money with a bunch of BS classes.
Yeah.
But capitalism.
No, it's not right. And there was a point when I was trying to figure out what I could still do in the film industry and the biggest, the one that I thought I could probably, do something in would be casting. I was like, oh my God, ever since I was younger, I would always be like, oh, like if I was to ever make this movie, I would cast this person, this, all that.
You're still gonna
shit, as
cast
it were.
Billy Eichner to play me, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Or vice versa. So
I'm not tall enough.
as we discovered
I'll
before,
stand on my
height
apple
has
box.
nothing. That's right. See, just stand on the apple box there.
All right.
But so I was interested in the casting aspect of the thing, and it was the same thing where it was like, you got to take these classes, and they're like a lot of fucking money, and
It's
I'm
so
like,
dumb.
I understand some of the stuff, but like I have a feeling if you take the intimacy coordinator,
I understand some of the intimacy because some people are clueless as to reading a room, which
but like
also is
I
kind of
could
a hard thing
guarantee
to
you,
learn if you don't.
oh
Anyway.
God, I know. No, yeah.
How do you teach that?
Can't, no, you can't teach natural
Empathy,
human instinct,
right?
yeah,
Human instinct,
towards
yeah.
And oh no, you cannot teach
Awareness.
empathy. Yeah, like a lot of it's going to be like so fucking boring. You'd be like, what is the point of all this?
Yeah.
Like you're probably going to have to know intimacy laws that were created back in the 70s. You'd have to like know them to the date, and like
Which fun fact?
you have to take exams on that.
My friends and I were just having dinner, and we were talking about how there is a law in New York City where people with breasts can be shirtless. It's totally legal.
Oh, I think there's only a few
New York-centric laws.
I think there's only a few states where it is illegal for women, because I don't know Ohio's rule on that, but I've also never investigated it. But I know there's some women that I've seen around here just like doing yard work without.
Oh, Yeah.
much on,
I didn't know until one day I was walking through Union Square and a gal just came jiggling along, and I was like, "Is that
Yeah,
okay?" And everybody's like, "Yeah, that's legal." I was like, "Cool, good
yeah.
for us."
Well, no, because I was gonna say the naked cowboy, naked cowgirl, because there's a naked cowgirl,
There is,
but
yeah,
she's painted,
yeah.
yeah. But still, like,
Anyway,
she doesn't need to be.
right?
She doesn't need to be.
Doesn't need to be.
No, it's just it's irritating that you're right where it's some company or something is like, oh, we can charge a lot for
Yep,
this. It's just
we
all
can
about getting
charge.
money.
We
And
can
then,
make a
like,
bunch of
again,
like fluff courses to make money off of the idea. You know,
fluffing 101. No,
fluffing
sorry.
101.
That's a whole
Whole
other thing and a
different
whole other business. Yeah. Yeah.
business.
That's right. Of
Yeah, yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah. We're really pro sex work here. Like,
That's
don't get
right.
us wrong.
Of course.
Um, yeah. Yeah, but I
Huh.
mean, how arbitrary is joining SAG? I mean, one of the reasons why I'm still not SAG, and it is
It's
also about money. You know.
it is definitely about money,
Well,
but to be fair, I earned it back very quickly, but that's
all right.
that is not a usual story for
It's not.
people. No, because we have colleagues that I know they worked really hard to join SAG, and when they got it, they got less work
Yeah.
because yeah, I've not had any, you know, instances where I've needed an intimacy coordinator, but I did make an independent film uh, in 2013, um, and I realized when shooting something, this only kind of has something to do with an intimacy coordinator, but I realized when shooting something that to simulate having sex with someone underneath the covers, just like a basic, looks like they're humping scene, it looked better when we were on our backs and going like this with it, like pushing out and up to the cover. That looked better and more like we were doing something naughty than when we were actually like trying to simulate doing stuff. So, little fun fact there
That's fun.
for filmmakers trying to create a love scene that doesn't have to be like really intense or whatever. I was making a comedy, so like I wasn't really thinking too much about it being
Oh,
sexy or anything. It was
okay.
just,
Yeah. So
But
you
it, seriously though, like it
independent
it did
director
look like it,
people
yeah.
out there, like, be mindful of your scenes and your nudity and get a goddamn intimacy coordinator. I've heard
A
horror
music
stories
video.
about independent films. Sorry.
I was on a music video with a group that they don't they're not too popular. I'd say they're like medium level success. Like they make enough money to get by.
Okay.
But I was in one of their music videos, and I was appalled by it because they had girls, dressed a certain way, and I was appalled by these weird guys just like yelling things to this lady, like,
Yeah.
who didn't speak a lick of English, by the
Oh
way.
fuck.
Um, I know, and I didn't realize until a little bit later in the shoot that was the band that was doing that. They were just there, you know. Yeah.
We should tell people
Oh,
some celebrity stories since they're missing their new content so much.
are you looking for happy celebrity stories or disappointing
Uh,
celebrity
I
stories?
think I think we've done enough cynicism this episode. We should tell
Oh, that's
happy.
it's okay. As long as it ends with cynicism too, so it ties right back together.
The cynicism sandwich.
This is kind of an interesting story, and it kind of sheds a light a little bit on the overworked actor
Mm-hmm.
because I was booked for
Which is almost
uh,
a redundant statement. Anyway.
I was booked on it was a 3 night overnight shoot on a series called The Following with Kevin Bacon,
Mm.
and yeah, and I was kind of stoked for the fact because fuck man, it's Kevin Bacon, like I get to holding is not in a church basement this time. Although I will have a little side note though, when I worked on Following the next year, it was like another season on the show,
Church
church
basement.
basement, and it was filmed in a church basement too.
No, I've never had that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Wow.
because the scene
Double
was
church basement.
it was an AA scene.
Ah,
So, and
perfect.
those, Yeah, those are
Yeah,
usually take place, and so like they
churches.
use the whole,
There you go.
just the church basement for everything.
Perfect.
The holding at this one was actually pretty interesting because the scene was um after a natural disaster, everybody in like one of those bunker type
Mm,
things, like one of those huge, place where they go with cots and
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, after checking and everything, everybody kind of describes the scene, and when they're describing the scene, I'm like, this is going to be a very long night.
Yeah, sometimes it's
Like,
better to not know what you're in for.
yeah. Well, they were like, I think they said, we get there and it's already 9 p.m. and they're like, we have 11 scenes to shoot. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
They were originally breaking it up to 3 days, and the second day ended up being just one long day. They
Yeah.
decided to just do it all, and that kind of sucked. So I'm doing, the basic background actor thing. It's crossing and do here and go there, and the day goes on. You meet interesting people, but this was the very first time that the principal, uh, Mr. Kevin Bacon, actually came up to me and like started talking. And like when he first started talking, like it was not computing. It could have been the lack of sleep or so. I don't know, but I was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, yeah, it's hi, nice to meet, very. And he told me a story. Now, again, if you look at my pictures, that was back when I had my long hair and my beard.
Right.
And he told me,
Pictures on Instagram, everyone. Holding
yes,
podcast on
yes.
Instagram.
So he told me that, like, he's like, I have this band called the Bacon Brothers, and in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, I know, like, I know like four things about Kevin Bacon. I know he does music also. He's got a band called the Bacon Brothers, and he says, wait, he's like we don't usually use this guy on when we perform live, but there's this guy that we use in session recordings. He's a bassist, and he looks just like you. And he's like, for a second, I thought that was you. I was like, no,
Oh,
no, I'm just a lowly
you could
background
be his
actor.
stand-in.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
they ever use him for anything.
Right.
So, cut to about, I would say, a year later.
Mm-hmm.
I get booked as a guest, or I don't get booked as a guest. I get booked in background, and I honestly, I don't remember the name of this production. Whatever it was,
I have
it
some
was
of
something that
those.
didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
and if I still had my paperwork, which I don't, but if I still
Right.
had my paperwork, I'd be able to tell you exactly which one.
Right.
But
Because
uh,
everyone, just so you know, you get paperwork for every production you
yes,
work on, unless it's like an independent film.
correct, and
Correct.
I lost mine in the divorce, so
Oh.
the special guests that in that production was Kevin Bacon, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, I was like, he's very professional. The coolest thing that I remembered when I was watching him before is he's one of those guys that has the turn it on, turn it off. Like as soon as they like hit
Wow.
action, like he's right in character, and he turns it off, and he's
Wow.
right back to, yeah. So that was kind of cool. And so like I'm going through the whole thing, and then uh, they start shooting, and we have a decent break because they're doing turnarounds
Mm.
and for the
Do the
Tracy's
Tracy's
out
know
there.
what a yeah? Go ahead.
Turnaround is basically just moving the cameras to get the other point of view of the
Every
scene.
now and then I
They
get
do
a
that.
little bit. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think we can afford that song
No.
either. But uh they basically do that for the editing. Like it's to be nice to the editors. And Kevin Bacon comes up and I'm still look the same. Comes up to talk to me, and I'm like, oh my god, like I get to talk to him again. Like I'll have another story. No, he told me the exact same story. No, no, that's not that. And I was like, oh, that's so great, that's great. All right, cut to 3 days later, I get booked on a commercial, and it's a commercial for, it's a phone company in the UK. It's whatever the biggest one is. I don't know.
Huh.
It's basically like our version of Verizon or
Right.
AT. It's one of those. And the spokesperson is Kevin Bacon.
Okay, you need to cut this
And
bacon out of your diet. This is too much bacon.
exactly. So, and I'm like, oh man, like this is, twice in 1 week. Like this is gonna be, it's like maybe, uh, of course, I'm thinking maybe he'll have something else to tell me. And I swear to everything on my life, yeah. Like it was only, I was only there 20 minutes and I see him and he's like, oh man, like you look like exactly like, so I have this band called the Bacon Brothers. And I'm
Deja
like,
vu with Kevin
and
Bacon.
again, yeah. And at first I thought
Aw.
it was like, maybe there's some senility. And then I was realizing, no, he was like, because every day that I worked, he was working, 12, 16-hour
Wow.
days
Yeah.
like that, just consistently going. So that's, another thing that really kind of, I don't know if it depressed me, but it made me look at, these principal actors a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it was until, and like, especially the commercial, I know he didn't get that much sleep.
Oh
There's no
God.
way. And
No.
yeah. And so, but he's like, turns it on and like, he is like wide awake, but, happy go lucky.
Mm.
And it was like every single thing I've seen him in since then. I'm like, man, that guy is like, I don't know. He's got like a natural drug or something.
Either that or he's a robot. But
Oh yeah.
we're
Well,
anti AI here.
one of my friends, who still lives around here, I had the so I've friends with this person for a real long time, but I had the joy, to tell her that I worked with Kevin Bacon, and now she was 6 degrees Kevin Bacon
Mm-hmm.
because I worked with her.
Mm-hmm.
But it gave me so much joy because she hates Kevin Bacon.
Oh boy.
And it irritated her. It irritates her to this day that she is 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. Like,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
And
strong.
I know that's a little bit of my, I don't know if it's cynicism, but it made me laugh pretty hard. And I was like, I have to tell her this.
You want me to tell a fun one? I have a fun one.
Of course.
We
Yeah.
listeners know that Nate and I talk about the show Gotham too much. Believe it or not, I did not work with the great Carol Kane on Gotham, but I did work with her on the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Yay! And I think it was the first time I worked on that show because I did work on it a few times. In fact, I should put on our Instagram the picture of me sitting next to the robot. Anyway,
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
gonna go on the Instagram. So I think it was the first time I worked on Unbreakable, and um, it was an exterior scene in Greenpoint, and Jane was there, and Carol was there, and we were protesting with Carol, and so we were outside, and it was in the beginning of fall, but it was this rare, stupid 80 something degree day, even though it was fall and we were dressed for fall. Which, when it's fall and they ask for you to dress for that season, it should be a comfortable situation. But actually, it was not because we were exterior. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, so it was hot. And so Carol, Carol fubbed her line, and she goes, "Oh my God, forgive me for this impression." She goes, "I'm sorry, Jane, but it's just so hot. It's like my brain wasn't there anymore." And I was like dying inside because I love her so much
Yeah.
and I just wanted to like scream and hug her. Anyway, so that was my Carol
Oh
Kane
God.
story. She's
Yeah,
adorable. Even her
I know.
stand in is adorable. I've had lunch with her stand in. Also, wonderful curly hair and just cute voice. And yeah, even her stand in is
Oh,
adorable. So, Carol Kane.
oh,
Yay.
that's amazing.
I'm
Because
sorry,
that
Jane.
she's the like the one person on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt that I didn't get to work with. And
Aw.
I know. And every day I would go in and be like, is today the day? Is today the day?
Aw.
It never was. And I was like,
Aw. Well, there you go. There's some Carol in your life because she's great.
yeah, I could always use Carol in my life.
She was
There
like
was
wearing her
something else
Doc
too that,
Martens and you know.
yeah, that's just basically, that's gonna be you. And like,
Thank you.
I'm, of course, I'm
That's a,
counting the
huge
days.
compliment. I want that for me.
Yeah,
I want
that's
that
of
for me.
course, you know. I'm hoping it's a little less stoop crone, but more that just that she's I can't even describe it, just her,
Yeah,
That's yeah,
yeah.
because
I
she
mean,
was
I
apparently
know that
on something else that I was
everybody
supposed to
brings
work
up
on, of
Taxi, but I think
course.
when I really fell in love with her, it was Scrooged.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, like,
I I'm a
and to just like,
Princess Bride
oh yeah,
freak,
too.
so
Yeah, of course. It's
that's,
just, it's so, that's something that I love is seeing actors who were in it then and are still in it now. That's the best. That's
yeah.
the best.
Yeah, one of the last productions that I remember I didn't get to be on it, but um a buddy of mine was telling me about it. And he got to work with Gina Davis, and he
Wow.
was like, dude, Gina Davis is still fucking hot and still incredibly great. And I was like, well, that's good to hear. I like to hear that.
Yes, we like to hear that. Yes.
Well, yeah, and then
See,
we don't need the cynicism now, I guess. Like
right.
that's
All we had to
yeah,
do was talk about Carol Kane, and now the cynicism
yeah.
sandwich is. It's not there anymore.
I always think about the Princess Bride just because anybody that could stand toe to toe with Billy Crystal and can even get anything and can even get a line off against him, even though like
Yeah.
probably almost outperforms him in that movie.
Yeah.
But overnights, to not to bring this up again, but like there was a point where I was doing so many overnights that I would take an entire thermos full of coffee. Like I had a big thermos. It was like I don't know, like almost a
You could kill
yard.
a man with it.
Oh yeah, and I would
Yeah.
go through the whole thing and
Jeez.
then be taking coffee from them
Oh god.
when I left. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
overnights. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was I had 2.5 weeks of overnight on the Amazing
Wow.
Spider-Man 2.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. The
fun
spiders come
stuff
out at
though.
night.
On previous podcasts talking about my first background gig. Besides that, every other time I've had on a Spider-Man movie has been amazing. Oh yeah, no, she's not in the yeah, and I think she knows everybody knows that about her. Yeah.
It's like,
Which is
listen.
odd because she loves the Footloose soundtrack, but she hates
So
Kevin Bacon.
why is it that she hates him? Like, what's the reasoning?
I'm not exactly sure. I just like
It's just random to
I
me.
yeah, well I asked her about it and she just went and like left the room. And I was like and somebody told me uh just don't bring up Kevin Bacon around her and everything will be better. And so like I never kind of did. But again, and it was the same response when I called her to tell her. I was like, "Hey, I work with
Wow.
Kevin Bacon, so now you're 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon." And then she left,
Wow.
like hung up the phone. I'm like, "Oh, oh, I forgot to put this part of the story. Well, I don't have. It's not really part of the story, but it was when we were shooting the overnights, and for the following,
Mm-hmm.
again, we're all completely fucking like
Yeah.
it's to the point
Punchy.
where this is beyond punchy. This is we're starting to get pissed off because they're taking
Yeah.
way too long.
Yeah, that's the irritability
And
kicking in.
but it didn't last that long because uh somebody somebody in the background, or it was probably the crew, they had just yelled cut for a scene, and this guy yelled, everybody cut. And then of course, the whole place lit up, and I was like, that's great. That's so great. And I was thinking, it's like how annoying that has to be for Kevin Bacon to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's odd? Right next door, I live right next door to a bodega, and I can smell a bacon, egg, and cheese being made right now as you're speaking about Kevin Bacon.
I envy your life. That
Why?
is the, but you want to know why? Because that was the thing. That was the
So
first
I'm
food I
always
fell in
craving
love
this
with.
thing that is making me fat? What?
That was the first thing I fell in love with when I would go to school every day was the New York bacon, egg, and cheese on a bagel because like
Nate,
every morning
for
I had it. It
those
was
of you
amazing.
listening, Nate just made an orgasm face.
It's you can't even you can't replicate it here. I've not been I've had acceptable ones, you know.
Yeah,
Even Dunkin' Donuts makes an acceptable
acceptable.
one, but it's not. It is not where you could be at the shittiest bodega in New York and the bacon, egg, and cheese is better than anywhere else.
Yep.
I know. And the fact that you're still like you could just be like, well, I'm gonna go get a I'm be like, oh fuck you. Yeah, it's not anything else about where you live or what you do. It's the bacon, egg, and
It's
cheese.
the bacon,
That's
egg,
the
and cheese. That's it.
yeah.
Bacon, egg, and cheese. Go ahead, be
Go
gone with
ahead,
it.
be gone with it.
I could do a podcast
Yeah.
just about the odd jobs that I've had in my life.
Good pod job.
Over the pod jobs. The pod jobs. Yeah, that would be my alternative podcast of like 30 years plus of odd jobs.
Yeah.
Pod
It
jobs with
yeah.
DiTolvo.
Hi everyone, Nate here. Today's episode is sponsored by DiTolvo Glass Studio. Now, have you ever looked out your window and thought, gosh, this is boring. What a boring view. Just a clear view of the outside? No thanks. And what about looking in from the outside? Just a regular window? Puke. Well, you'll never have to think that again. At DiTolvo Glass Studio, you can update your glass look and be the envy of your neighbors and enemies alike. For personalized bespoke stained glass designs, mosaics, paintings, and mixed media specialized in horror, and the holding podcast stickers are also available. DiTolvo Glass Studio. Celebrate your wonder. Like I feel like
I feel like that was a good podcast. I know that I bitched a lot,
oh
but
no, I love the bitching. Are you kidding me?
okay, good. Yeah,
Hopefully
I've been
other people
telling
do.
people that, when we first wanted to start this podcast, we're like, let's just talk about the film industry. And now it's just like, we're just calling everything out right and left.
Yeah.
We're just like, this is what's wrong with it. This is what's wrong with it. But we love
Yeah.
it, but we are calling it out.
Yeah, no.
And
Fucking Kevin
that's
Bacon.
why
He
I'm
knows what he
pressuring
did.
myself to get this out there because
Yeah.
it's so relevant right now with all the strikes. People would be really receptive to it.
The strike thing is just so depressing all around.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard. I mean, yeah, like it's good to get it out there, but it's hard to make light of it. Which is funny because the people that could make light of it are the ones who are picketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they're professionals at it. And again, I want productions to start back up mainly for you and all of my friends in New York,
Yeah.
like your livelihoods.
Yeah. It's it's been rough. Money,
Yeah,
please.
especially. Oh, you're so much cooler than I am.
He sits by my desk. He sits on my desk. The only no, I did background on the Deuce when it was like the last episode and it was the 80s and that's when they made me look awful. Um uh I had a chance to be like a set continuity person because they were looking for people who knew what peep shows looked like, an interior of a peep show. And I submitted, and they were like, "We just want somebody to like come look at the set. We'll pay you like whatever $100 a day just to like let us know if it's authentic." And it was the same goddamn day that I was working with John Bernthal, so I had to decline. I was like, why when it rains it pours? Like, I have 2 days on the Punisher, and I can't say no to that. Duh.
Oh, you made the right
Duh.
decision.
But,
Yeah.
like, why can't we do this 3 days from now? Why does it have to be the same goddamn day? Because I'm out on Long Island. There's no way I can swing this. Anyway, I am going to shout out about how fucking nice both John Bernthal and Charlie fucking Cox are. They're
Love that
great
guy. I love
guys.
both those guys. Yeah.
And they're hot. But they're great guys. And even Charlie Cox's stunt double is hot. But anyway, and I think he's also British and like super fucking polite. I'm like, how do you find a stunt double who is like pretty much you? Like, what? How? Like, you're both British and you're both hot and you're both polite. Like, what? How? Like, I can't even find a date and you found somebody who's like your stunt double. Like, what?
I don't know how much truth is, but I heard Christopher Walken's stand-in has been his like stand-in forever. It's because
Carol
he's known him
Kane's has been
forever.
hers for a minute, so, or at least that's what she said when I had lunch with her. So,
I'm
thank
feeling pretty
you
good.
and thank Carol Kane.
Thank Carol Kane. Sorry, that's the sign off from now on.
Yes.
Blessed be to Carol Kane. Yes, I have been Nate in Ohio.
You still are.
Yes, well, I've been Nate in Ohio, and I'm signing off saying goodbye.
Yes. And I'm
Yeah.
DiTolvo in Queens. Thank you, Carol Kane.
Thank you, Carol Kane.
Thank you, Carol Kane. Go ahead, be
Go
gone with it.
ahead, be gone with it. Oh God, we got another one.